And you would think that I'd be moving and unmoving. But I'm a sucker, like I said. Fucked up in the head. Not. And maybe she just made a mistake. And I should go give her a break. Wow. Wow. Great work. Maybe I just made a mistake and I should give her a break. My heart will ache. Wow. Wow. Either way, what the hell? What do you want me to say? I won't lie. I can't deny. I did it all for...
Dingy dingy.
Come on.
Dingy dingy.
Come on. So you can take that and stick it up your yeah. Stick it up your yeah. Stick it up your yeah. Stick it up your... I did it all for...
Dingy dingy.
Come on.
Dingy dingy.
You can take that
finger
and stick it up your yeah. What the hell? I see.
Well, hello there. How's everyone doing? It's been a while. I know it's been like, well, over a month. I've been on other channels doing other work, being a guest on different people's channels, helping them out and so on. But I've taken a break. I was doing a series on Eddie Murphy. I had about 3 more scheduled. And after doing 2 of them, I had about a dozen total in plan. Just under. And yeah, I did a couple of them, and by the second one, I was just so, how can I put it, so affected by what I was discovering and how far back this whole, well, all the craziness that we're now open about and honest about in the 21st century, and just overwhelmed by. I mean, it goes way back, including some of my childhood well, embarrassing to admit, but yeah, some of my childhood heroes. I mean, Eddie Murphy was a childhood hero of mine because, you know, he was unfiltered. And so, you know, freedom of speech, that's what that represented. And that was really cool. Of course, it was funny, or at least thought so back then. But yeah, I mean, just to see I mean, I like to give people more credit than to just say, well, everyone's just dumb, they don't know any better, they had bad advisors, and all these things they keep hearing over and over and over again. How somehow we're that much more intelligent than these people that have amassed all this fame and fortune and power. Yeah, I'm just not buying it. So to see him pushing this, what they call these days, CRT stuff, this just hypocritical sinister fascism way back decades when I was young, and I didn't even realize at the time. I mean, not only do I feel duped like I have been by all mass media, but yeah, I mean, this is a little bit personal. I mean, he's not like a father figure or anything, but he's definitely someone I was, even up until very recently, was making excuses for. Yeah, I talked about this a little bit before, and I'll talk about it some more. I'll go back to continuing that series on Eddie Murphy. I might just wrap it up with 2, maybe 3 more, I don't know, but at any rate, I'll continue. The next one up was 48 Hours, and I'll probably be doing that next week, maybe even as early as this weekend. Just depends on things go for me personally. But yeah, anyway, it's just enough of that. It's quite crazy to just see how far back the stuff goes. It's nice to think that it's a new phenomena, and everything has been lauded all our lives, and all these things. But yeah, unfortunately, that's just not the reality. So anyway, yeah, today I'm taking the opportunity to pay a little tribute, a commemoration of 9/11, September 9/11. I know it's been over a couple of decades, and some people might argue, well, you know what, it's passé, but I don't think something this significant, this historical, something that's changed so much, should be forgotten, and never mind be considered passé. Yeah, especially in lieu of the lockdown and what transpired there. Remember the rhetoric that helped facilitate it, which was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Remember that one? Now, for those of us who were in the States and did suffer, and I personally, my entire family personally suffered greatly from that in the process. As a family, we've lost everything we own. Still suffering from the implications of that, in fact, including the racism, that too, but let's not get off on a tangent. I've discussed that in other streams. Yeah, but remember, I mean, just officially it was 1 week of closures nationally. All these professional sports even were shut down. And about a week later, they were allowed to begin again. I remember going to the Boston Red Sox game. I was in Boston at the time. And that was the first Boston Red Sox game after 9/11. And it was quite miserable. And I mean, I've never been to a live sporting event that was so depressing. I mean, everyone was so completely devastated, defeated, emotionally, spiritually. It was just, it was quite intense. I mean, it was surreal. It was surreal. And we're talking about, this was in the original Fenway Park, Green Monster. I mean, in itself, it's a national emblem, so to speak. And to see that kind of event after that historical, that historical event transpire, go down like that, it was just, I mean, anyway, yeah, but only 1 week of closure is really about 2. It devastated the economy, an economy that was already suffering. We're already going through a recession. But that really threw us down the commode, So here we are 20 years later talking about 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And that's why we talk about, remembering history, learning from history, not forgetting history. Something we're actively doing these days, something we choose to do, so we can just cope with all the insanity, especially in the 21st century, in the 2020s. I mean, it's insane. I mean, they keep bombarding us with stuff. I mean, going back again to the lockdown, arguably the most significant, we'll call it a genocide, call it whatever you want, of the 21st century. That's not being discussed. We had the Fauci trials. Where's any discussion about that? The greatest thing in the 21st century being silenced. What's that about? So yeah, that's why I felt it necessary. Actually, I was supposed to have a fellow guest on, Patriotic Christian. I'm sure you guys know him by now. Facilitated. He's going to be on Lloyd Day Young in a couple of days, being featured on that, which I'm excited about. I'm happy for him for that. And also, he's going to do another stream follow up, originally scheduled, with others, talking about the current events in the UK and all that. I know he hasn't talked about that on my channel. I keep trying to get him on these other channels. A cross discussion group was one, and he was supposed to do that, like, and he wanted to do a stream with me right before that. So I was like, sure, we're supposed to do it that weekend, and ended up doing literally right before he was scheduled to do a stream with Crosser, the one I was pushing for hard. And he does my stream and then just completely disappears. Patriotic Christian fashion. But turns out he was hacked. So on top of being canceled, which we were talking about that night, he got hacked. I don't know, during my stream, before my stream, whatever. At any rate, he couldn't get onto Eric's Cross Christian discussion group stream. And then he finally did one the following week with him. But but anyway, so now he's on Lloyd the Young's in a couple of days, Friday. So check that out. Again, he's still trying to build up his new YouTube channel. So, give him a follow over there. Do a little migration if you haven't already. What else? I think he mentioned Paul Thorpe. Again, I'm not too familiar with who that is. But he's saying he's got, like, I don't know, a lot of subscribers in this movement. So if you guys are familiar with that, it sounds like he might have something in works with them as well. And he's still, of course, doing his shorts. They're a little different these days, but yeah, I really miss the old ones and his reactions to these little things he was watching. But maybe blessed. So yeah, he was going to be on today. That's why I brought it up. And I was looking forward to taking a look at a certain video with him, which is surrounds our discussion. It's really intriguing, and he didn't know what to make of it himself. I didn't talk to him on the phone or anything. He sent me some messages about it in response. He couldn't make odds and ends of it either, but it's quite intriguing. We might just watch it anyway without him, and I'll let you guys be the judge. But according to this video, there was like what sounds like and seems like a CIA agent, whatever reason, making YouTube videos, and he's going into this something that's been publicly talked about. It's an area in London, apparently, that it's like Fifth Street in Austin and that kind of thing. Like this public area where people, what is it? Not Nag's Head, but Buckhead in Atlanta. The public drinking place. That it's famous for. People go out there and go bar hopping, and they can have drink in hand as they go from one club to the other. So it's popular for that kind of thing. So apparently they have this area in London, I believe, and this CIA agent goes and visits that with a remote or a drone in hand, and he goes up, walking by the police, standing guard of this place, make sure nobody's drinking publicly, because you want to offend the pagan hypocrites. And so, yeah, for whatever reason, he's walking in front of him with this in hand, and he's claiming that he doesn't actually have the drone flying, but he's holding this for whatever reason. Of course, he's recording it in a weird angle, nonetheless. It's all really weird, and they go to arrest him because he's being non-responsive and confrontational, and then he's playing victim. It's very much BLM style, and eventually he pulls out his ID, and he's it sounds like he says he's CIA, and once the cops see his ID, and he mentions he doesn't have to show his ID, but he does it anyway. All of a sudden, they're not arresting him, and they're letting him go, and this guy's like, now, like insulting this cop, like calling him names and chasing after him with his video camera, which should be illegal. Yeah, I mean, at least in America, you can't sit there and chase after cops and call them names, even though they've been getting away with that lately, thanks to BLM and all the wondrous, sinister hypocrisy. That's that's Agenda 21 style stuff. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't know much about Agenda 21, to be honest with you. It's on my radar lately, but evidently it's a real thing. So it's worth checking out. I may do that. I'm just overwhelmed with all kinds of other things, so I don't really get into the conspiracy theories, to be honest with you. I'm more evidence-based. Anyway, but yeah, this one's, again, just like MK Ultra and Project Mockingbird. This too is an actual thing, it turns out. But so is the 9/11 Commission report. The government's own investigation into what happened in 9/11. I think Michael Moore mentioned it in his documentary. I'm not a fan of that guy either, but whatever. But I'm not going to get into too many conspiracy theories here about what happened on 9/11. If not any other reason, out of respect for the thousands upon thousands who died, and the thousands upon thousands who get murdered annually by the quote-unquote religion of peace, that pagan, sinister cult, Islam. But yeah, I mean, sorry about the adjectives, but yeah, you talk about this stuff, and it's hard not to get moved, get into the passions. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the other conspiracy was, and again, there's Jews on video, on YouTube and so on, talking about how they got this phone call, this warning, this text message in the morning of to not go to work. Those are working in the World Trade Center. I don't know how true that is or not, but it's definitely out there. Yeah, what other conspiracy theories do we have? Oh yeah, that was actually not the planes that destroyed the buildings, but it was the demolitions. Got all kinds of videos and people talking about that kind of thing. I mean, I don't know, but I will talk about the facts surrounding that. So let's start there. Let's start with, well, it's kind of interesting, right? This whole 9/11 thing changed the world, not just America, but it changed the world. But here we are about a decade later. The United Nations, European Union, and all these other nations are now directing Muslims into their country, paying them even. This is all documented. To come to the country, all kinds of things. I mean, the EU-Turkey agreement, where once the Slavs closed the borders and trapped all these refugees, let's call them, these invaders, they're going to be real, in Greece and Italy, right? And so the EU-Turkey deal, or Turkey agreement, was to, and that was in 2017, I believe, 2016, 2017, 2017, I think it was. They were giving Turkey money, which was already exploiting all these people going through Turkey, by the way, charging thousands just to pass through, doing all kinds of dubious things, especially the Christian Arabs were suffered the most. And, had doors shut on them. I mean, if anybody was a refugee, it would be the Christian Arabs. But they were treated like dirt, rejected, turned around. And even, given things like fake life preservers, I had pictures on this on my group in Fascist Book, and they closed me a half a year before they shut down the Donald on Twitter, which Donald made, the duck or whatever his name is, he made Twitter famous. But half a year before that, the Fascist Book shut me down, and I was posting all these videos of firsthand images and proof about, and this is one of them that survived. For some reason, I can't find anything else. But yeah, so anyways, let's go back. And I'm not going to go way back to Iran-Contra or the establishment of Israel or anything like that. And how much Egypt loved that deal. But actually, you know what? It is worth mentioning it. let's talk about World War II implications and the establishment of Israel. And by the way, as far as the lethal serums that were forced worldwide in the hearings, where is the discussion of Nuremberg trials for that? Does Jewish Berlin not, of Pfizer, CEO, does he not approve of that? Is it not gainful discussion for them? Anyway, yeah, so World War II. All these nations that obviously support Jews in Israel, even though mass media says otherwise, established Israel, the state of Israel, right? What about Constantinople? Why didn't they liberate Constantinople, the Christian epicenter? The second C, which had, since the schism was considered the first C, the first among equals, was the patriarch there. 4 centuries of oppression by Islamic Turks. In World War II, the Turks were defeated, and the Turks and the Muslims were helping Hitler. And the Greeks fought off. Anyway, you guys don't want to hear about what the Greeks did, of course. I mean, spit on the Greeks, right? But they played a significant role. By the way, you're welcome, UK. My buddy, if he's listening out there, patriotic Christian, you're welcome. What the Greeks did when they defeated the fascist Mussolini, and then Germany had to alter their plans and take a detour and come into Greece, and Greece fought them off for months and finally defeated Greece. And then they went to Russia, and we all know the rest. The Russian winter, they were spread out by then, and then, slowly but surely they fell. I'm forgetting what's the D-Day invasion? What's that called? I forgot now. At any rate, yeah, then America got involved, came in from the north. And at any rate, so I thank you for all that. And, allegedly the West were liberators, but they didn't give Constantinople back to Greece. Why is that? They were so willing to give Israel to the Jews. Why not Constantinople back to the Christians? Anyone? I mean, I want to answer for that. Anyone who's watching now, put it up in chat. Or if you want to come up and discuss it, even better. Or if you're watching this later, put your comment on there. I really want to know, why were first UK and then followed by US stamp of approval? Why was Israel established, but Constantinople not given back to the Christian Greeks? I really, really want to know. I've got so many videos. I want to play one now, and I can't freaking find it. I've got like 3 dozen clips. I've got to go through these and to trim down, because this is freaking ridiculous. I can't even. And I've got them labeled so I can read them easily, but I still can't find it. Kitty at lace. This is bad.
Anyone? Anyone know what this is, class? Anyone seen this before? Anyone?
Yeah, anyway. It took me half a minute to find that. That's how many of these clips I have. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Why? Where's the answer to that? And all these Christians running around pointing to David and not Jesus, being Zionists. I mean, the most popular one is a dude that just recently did his live stream with Jay Dyer. That's a whole other discussion there. Who's wearing a beanie. This is an atheist promoting Zionism. Israel, the Jews. Huh. How about that? I mean, is it more revealing than that, than an atheist being completely behind the Jews? No pun intended. Ah, boy. Yeah. So, yeah, I want to know again, why is Constantinople not given back to the Christians, the Greeks, after World War One?
You are an
Of the anyone? The
All right. So yeah, I mean, you had all this terrorist attacks in response, starting with the Egyptians. And then amidst all that, there was the whole Iran versus Iraq thing, and we became allies with Iraq. The Bushes being buddy and business partners with, you know who, Saddam beheaded, urinated on Hussein. Look, when I was young, I mean, I was a guy that was, and this is back in when we had the coalition forces back then, when the whole world was like, all right, we're going to get this guy. He invaded Kuwait. He started to destroy nature. And I was like, hey, look what he's burning the oil fields. He's destroying all this nature. And so everyone was out to get him. And the coalition forces, they called it. And that was Desert Storm. And they just railroaded the guy in this nation. But instead of taking him out of power, they left him in power, and they instilled these no-fly zones and embargoes for a decade. And the UN was running around Iraq looking at the presidential palaces for weapons of mass destruction, which they couldn't find, but they're adamant they existed. And so after a decade of this, and by the way, at this point, it was Bill Clinton in the 90s who completely sold America out. I mean, his policies, and NAFTA, the tariffs, the stock market deals, and the closing of the military bases, the consolidation and privatization of public education. Bill Clinton was the friggin' worst. Let's not forget, quote unquote, benefits, the precursor to Obamacare. I mean, that put some people out of business. Anyway, yeah. So, and that brings us to, I forgot Y2K. Remember that? If you're old enough. Yeah, that was like, oh no, the computers weren't programmed to go and register the year 2000. All the computers are going to crash. It's going to be the end of the world as we know it. I mean, and that really put in the heads of all the people how computers are a must in our life. And we didn't turn back. Then there was www, 666 in Hebrew, the World Wide Web, the internet. And that was thanks to American Idol, 2005, the texting, and then 5 years later with the apps, which I learned to do, and all the things behind that. I mean, anyway, so Y2K, nobody was on board with Bush Jr. Now, Bush Jr. was in power. Nobody around the world except for Morocco. Morocco wanted to send monkeys to help with the coalition forces. That was the coalition forces. America, UK, and Moroccan monkeys. I mean, oh boy, that's like comic book stuff, folks. So nobody wanted to go to war. What's he going to do? What's Bush going to do? Go to war with Iraq by himself? Could have, but he didn't. He wanted the coalition forces. Lo and behold, 9/11. And so it is not a conspiracy theory that the federal government and the secret agencies knew about the attacks before they happened. That's not a conspiracy theory. Why am I saying that? Well, that's actually in the 9/11 Commission report and the government's own investigation. I'm going to share a link of the PDF for that in chat. You can look it up yourself, but you'll probably also be able to find it in online somewhere. But it's best to just read the source document. Hello, Heather. Welcome. believe I've seen you elsewhere, but I can't. Memory is not registering. But if you'd like to come up and share your experiences about 9/11 is what our focus is on today, please feel free to come up. Let me know. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, 9/11. I mean, again, the government knew it. They allowed it. I mean, you can say for whatever reason, whether it was intentional or accidental, regardless, they allowed it to happen because they had knowledge of it in advance. And thousands of people died in one day. The economy was decimated. And now America has the excuse, the reason to gain support, worldwide support, even though it wasn't like the first Desert Storm, Desert Shield attack. It was still a lot more than just UK and a bunch of Moroccan monkeys. And so now we go to war with Iraq again. And this time they do get them, and they gave them to I believe it was the Saudis. It was a Sunni nonetheless who beheaded them and urinated on them and set them on fire and stuff like that. Made it very public. Yeah. So that was quite intense. But by then I had gotten to know Vietnam veterans. One of my best friends was a Vietnam veteran. He was sharing all kinds of stories with me. Another one of my friend's father was a Vietnam veteran, and he not only shared a quite intense story with me, which I'll not share because it's scarring, and just because of the way he does it. He does his voice, just like, which I can imitate, but it will scar you, so I won't subject you to that. But in addition to that, he did show me the pictures that he was talking about firsthand, and it wasn't like being there, of course, but he made it feel like I'm looking at these actual old pictures of this stuff with this guy describing it the way he was. And that changed me forever when it comes to war. Now I'm anti-war, regardless, short of defending yourself. A nation should be able to defend itself against encroachers, of course. But short of that, I'm not a big fan of going overseas and going to war with folks. Yeah, because at the end of the day, war, all of it's ugly. I mean, even Operation Desert Freedom, I think it was called. I met another friend, let's say a friend, not a close friend, but a friend, who was also telling me stories about that, who in those stories were almost identical to the stories I was hearing about Vietnam. Don't think that's a coincidence. I mean, different environment, jungle versus desert, but same going ons. It's just quite disturbing. Yeah, amen. So yeah, I've got the 9/11 Commission report, all these conspiracy theories I've mentioned. So what happens since then, since 9/11? Well, like we said, we had the Patriot Act, which was highly controversial. It gave the police the right to do things I've never seen before, which includes going onto people's property without a warrant. I mean, the whole search and seizure thing was completely changed. And that too, the biggest complaint was the searches at airports. I don't necessarily, I understand that. I haven't been to other countries that have much more intense security at their airports. I wasn't completely against that, but I do understand people complaining about these people getting a little too personal. There's privatized agencies, security getting too personal. Yeah, when they're searches. All right, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, since then we had the bailouts, we had all kinds of with Obamacare, we had then the Arab Spring. That was in the 20 teens. That was quite significant, right? Syria was in the middle of that. Egypt, right in the middle of that. So Egypt, its people, with a military coup, were able to overthrow a tyrannical Muslim leader. But Barack Hussein Obama and Hillary Rodham Clinton had issues with that. The same thing, well, conversely speaking, with Syria. No, I have not. Heather is asking about the Harbinger. I've heard of it, I believe. But no, I'll be curious to know what that's about. Again, Heather, you're welcome to come up if you like, talk about the Harbinger too. I was supposed to have Patriarch Christian on today, but he had something come up. So I'm not going to cover everything I was going to. I believe I'm still going to cover that one video though. It's just because it's weird, and I want to make sure. I don't know when the next time he'll be on to discuss it, so I'll just go ahead and share that. But the rest I won't. But yeah, so 2017 Arab Spring, America had the exact opposite reaction it should have had. It should have been anti-Islam, all things considered, but instead, of course, it was pro-Islam. Yeah, and in addition to that, both of them, Hillary Clinton and BO, were both saying publicly that they will lock down internet because the internet had too much influence, had too much power, and so they need to do something about that. They were saying this publicly, and so just a few years later, here we are, the lockdown. Right, the lockdown and the insane censorship, which I went through. By the way, I got kicked off of Fascist Book, I believe it was in September, October, the latest of 2020. And I know that because I was watching a Green Bay Packers game. That night I was in the middle of watching a game, and it was around halftime that I got shut down. And I had sent, at that point, I was already doing my peripheral research and sharing things. I had my Facebook group on mass media. But also, I had worked for Pfizer in the past, folks. And knowing how things operate, I just had this hunch that Pfizer, and again, just to put this in perspective, for whatever reason, I was prompted to write about how there will be forced vaccines in both the backdrop in the movie script and a children's book. I came up with that idea in 2019, and I have it documented. But in the 2020 lockdown, our brain stopped working. With all the trauma, we were all traumatized and, couldn't think properly. So I'd forgotten all about that. I saw that actually, I think it was in 2021 when I went back to my works. I was like, whoa. Anyway, so Pfizer, I just said, you know what? They're going to force vaxes, and Pfizer is going to be the one. This is before they were publicly talking about it. And so I told my family members in a messenger message during halftime, Green Bay, hey, invest in Pfizer, and then next year when you realize that it's blood money, dump it. And then like a few minutes later, I saw a friend posting something about, I think it was Chuck Schumer and an alleged pedophilia thing. Or she's just saying something, I don't know, but something I agreed with. And I saw someone else's post about Chuck Schumer. And so I shared someone else's post on her thing, agreeing with what she was saying. And bam, just like that, I was shut down, not only illegally, because they were a public utility back then, not to mention it was unconstitutional, but also even against their own company policies. They wouldn't even let me go back on to refute it. Back then, you could refute it and all these things. They even demanded a facial recognition, like idiot I did it, and then still wouldn't let me back on. And to this day, they have my account deleted to the degree where I can't even see what's on it. But yet, other people are sending me stuff for whatever reason. It's somehow still active, and I think maybe other people can still see it. I don't know. It's crazy. But yeah. That's www for you. Vav, vav, vav. 666 in Hebrew. Yeah, and so the lockdown and so on and so forth. And here we are, people. I mean, again, this picture comes from 2015 when I was in Greece and at the borders, helping with this historical mass migration. I was seeing all kinds of things back then, including this show solidarity thing spray painted all over the place. So I knew that was a problem. I was in with the NGOs, and so I was in with their groups, and I saw them. The NGOs were organizing Muslims and other locals to riot, to devastate the nations that they were going through, but basically invading. The NGOs, the nonprofits were organizing that junk. So yeah, I'd had enough at that point. I was like, man, these people are brought in as in the 21st century, and this is before BLM. So this might sound a little weird to you now, but in the 21st century, we become relatively extremely civilized, unwilling to do the evil things that people were willing to do in the past. Well, because they had to earn a living, and so on. We've become completely complacent. So who else to be the new Gestapo but these pagan Muslims that are obviously the absolute worst and willing to do anything, especially for a buck, but just for the sake of being pure evil. And so that was my prediction. I was warning people back then, look, they're bringing these people in to be the next Gestapo. Now we have what's going on, not only worldwide, but especially in the UK right now, which is in the process of falling. And I've talked about this in my previous live stream with Patriotic Christian, and just how I see it. And since I'm kind of filling air right now, to be honest with you, I'll go ahead and talk about it again one quick time. And then again, this is just my opinion. I'm no expert by any means in the Revelations, the Apocalypse. Certainly not even Scripture in general for that. New Testament, I'm no expert in that. So this is just my understanding, for what it's worth. That's fairly unvetted. Okay, just a disclaimer. But the way I've interpreted these things, and brace yourselves, some of you might not like this, but I believe that the beast talked about in the Revelations is actually the United States. 7 heads, 10 crowns, 10 horns. I think it's the U.S. And I think the main head is the United Kingdom, the UK. I've been saying this for a while, not so much in the context of Revelations, but how the UK is really seems to dictate things for the U.S., do things first, and the U.S. backs them up. And I know Patriotic Christian sees it the other way. But at any rate, let's call it the head and the body. The U.S. is the body, and the UK is one of the heads. And we see now the heads. I mean, World War II had happened. The head was being crushed by Hitler, and his allies were the Nazis. The Muslims, by the way. But they were rescued by Russia, right? They were rescued by Russia, which is part of BRICS right now, which is part of what I say is the Red Dragon. So we're seeing the Red Dragon take over, dominate the beast, the whore of Babylon, which I believe is Israel, being thrown off. And again, we're seeing Israel no longer getting support from the U.S. But as we're saying in the last live stream, the head will be healed. UK will be healed, and it has been healed since World War II. So let's hope whatever's going on now is just I don't know, this too shall pass. These are events that will hopefully come and go. I don't know. But again, this is just my own interpretation from childhood. When I first read Revelations, I was like, whoa, this sounds like America. And then, whatever, put it aside. But now that I've lived all these things that I've lived, experienced all these things, learned all these things, have had all this insight. I mean, the stuff that I've experienced and seen at certain points in history is unbelievable. So, but at any rate, and I've now come back to that belief, and I'm seeing these things this way. So, for whatever it's worth. But regardless of what all this stuff means, wherever we're heading, how far, whether or not Islam, these Muslims are the thousands of soldiers unleashed by the angel of death, is my understanding of this. Regardless of whether or not that's true, Christ does tell us this too shall pass. Again, this is like the son of perdition and those discussions. I know some people see that as a historical thing and not a prophecy, but I would disagree with that. Yeah, anyway, people, for what it's worth, I encourage everyone to go ahead and, do what you have to. And I don't mean go out in the streets and start massacring people or tag brown people, as the fool used to put it. God forbid, you adopt that attitude. That's what they want. They want you to lose, to give into the passions and be evil. And they're going to have their police state regardless, with or without you. They've been at lockdown shows that they're going to establish it with or without you. So, but yeah, in the meantime, you know, the two greatest commandments, all the law hangs on them, can be summed up by two words: nous and koinonia. Let me put these in the chat so you can look them up. Nous, and that's your relationship with God. And koinonia, that is your relationship with each other. This is what's important right now, that to the very end, you pray unceasingly. And I mean to your very last breath, literally. You pray unceasingly. This will help you keep your armor of God up and protect you from the onslaught of the evil ones. Meantime, we're not made to be individuals, as mass media has brainwashed us to believe. We are one body. We're supposed to take care of each other. Do that. For the love of God, do that. All right. I don't have anything else for you guys. Doesn't seem like anyone wants to come up. May be blessed. I'm going to keep it short and simple today. And that's just it. I also, you know, my favorite one that's got me through the lockdown and on a lot of things, one Bible quote is, "Blessed are those who endure unto the end." And then let me show this one clip real quick. God bless you. Thank you for being here, and I hope to see you again soon.
You see what I'm saying? What are you prepared to do?
Everything within the law.
And then what are you prepared to do?